All right, all right. Tennessee wins, but that second half was something. I guess that's the way that I'll put it before we dive into it. Welcome back, everybody, to the A to Z Sports Big Orange Game Day post-game reaction show. I'm Charlie Burris. Here with me is former Vols quarterback Jonathan Crompton, the last man to play quarterback for Tennessee when they wore black jerseys against South Carolina. So he's no one better to talk about this game than him. And we thought we were going to have a boring post-game show where we were basically going to just have to talk about your memories of, when you played for Tennessee. But actually, that second half was not as fun as we were maybe hoping. Josh Heupel goes conservative. It kind of seems like the play calling kind of seized up a little bit. Hendon Hooker didn't look as loose. What happened? What did you think of that second half?
Honestly, I mean, you can't blame him getting conservative. 38-7.5. We got Ole Miss coming up, and they're in a shootout right now, knowing that we're going to be in a shootout next week. You know what I mean? So you can't blame it for getting conservative. Wish we would have seen a little more execution, even with the conservative game plan, but you can't blame him one bit because we're up 38-7 against a not so good South Carolina team, or at least they weren't playing good. Like I said, we can sit here and nitpick all day. We still gotta execute in that conservative game plan as far as running the ball, because we just want the clock to end. That's all we're trying to do.
Yep.
At that point, it's highly unlikely they're coming back. Right now, we gave ourselves a little bit of a scare. Good job on the 2-point conversion, not letting them convert, so it still kept it a 3-point ball or a 3-score ball game. But that's football. Everybody's going to get conservative at some point. So we've got to do a better job of executing that, but also where's that fine line of trying to stay healthy? That's Evans. I mean, we don't need him to go down. That dude is a pretty damn good running back to have on our side. So those things, I think, are what were in the back of his mind. And unfortunately, Evans still got hurt.
So here's a question that I would pose, because this was a conversation that we had a lot with Butch Jones. When Butch had some of his best teams, players were getting hurt like left and right. Yeah. And a lot of people looked and they went, what is going on here? Why is everybody getting injured? And we had a great team and now it's decimated. I look at this and I wonder, is it us getting tight about it because we have so few players in the wings? Or should we look at this and be like, hey, what's the strength and conditioning coach doing? Because a lot of people are getting injured.
I think that's just football. And I think that each fan base, including us, are going to, micromanage that in the sense of it's a physical contact, testosterone-fueled sport where guys are literally trying to rip your head off. You're going to get hurt. You're going to tweak a hammy. You're going to roll an ankle. Linemen, O and D linemen are going to get rolled up on it and have knee injuries. It's just always more magnified when it's your team. And I mean, that's the way that I look at it, because you're never going to go through a season injury-free through the whole team. It's just not going to happen at any level for any team of football. So when it's your team, it's just a little more magnified. But I think it's more magnified for us because, like you said, we don't have any depth.
Exactly.
So it's almost like, oh, crap. Instead of, okay, well, we got the next guy. We don't have those guys yet, but they're coming.
And I think an exciting thing to talk about this, just so we don't have to, kind of moan about that second half. I mean, we all watched it. It was underwhelming is how I would put it. You won by 25. Let's also be honest. You won by 25.
We did what we had to do.
Yes. I think a conversation to be had now, this pretty much locks you into, this is your fourth win. This essentially locks you into a bowl game because Vandy is hot garbage and you play South Alabama. So that's essentially, that's 6 wins. And you kind of turn and you look, okay, that was a huge goal, is getting to a bowl game. And now you can kind of sell like, hey, we went 6-6 at least in this first season. Hopefully it's better than that by the end. And, can this help recruiting. That's where I look, because obviously you need some more bodies out there.
No, it definitely can, and I'm gonna stick to it. I know Kentucky's 5-0, but to me, it's Kentucky. We expect to beat Kentucky. Bottom line. I've said it the whole time. I think 7-5 is a legitimate goal. Today helps. Alabama right now is Alabama. Georgia, hey, let's call it like it is. Georgia does not have JT Daniels right now. Without him, they are defense heavy. That's it. They're not going to go score 35 points without him, I don't think. You know what I mean? So, I know I say that, and they did against Arkansas, but that's just I'm not. So Arkansas is also giving up 52 points today. So yeah. I'm not 100% going to sit here and say that Georgia is a lock loss unless JT Daniels is playing.
I like this. This is a little beside the point from what you were saying, but I like this comment from Evan White. I think this chat plus Charlie and Crump could beat Vandy. I think we could.
Love it. You know what, Evan?
Really bad.
I like you. Evan, and how you put them a hot garbage, man? Come on, be honest. That was the nice way.
Yeah,
I hate to say it, but it's they're bad right now, and I wish they would get better for the SEC's sake.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It just helps the conference, but in baseball, get your mind right. Football, no.
But you do. I mean, I think you're kind of hoping with this game and with the way that this Ole Miss Arkansas game is going. Ole Miss and Ben Hall said it right here. You got to be hoping Ole Miss is going to be gassed next week after this absolute track meet that they're on right now.
Well, I've got it on my TV right now, obviously because of next week. Arkansas's got the ball 2nd and 3 in the red zone with 14 seconds. They got a legit chance to go to overtime.
Oh, go.
This is the one that we, as fans, especially of Tennessee, we need this to go to like 3 or 4. That would help us because you're right. Then it's exactly right. They will be. I know they're collegiate athletes, but it still weighs on you when you go into a multiple overtime game. I mean, so it looks like they're on like the 21-yard line. Anything can happen at this point.
Just think how huge it would be for Heupel in this first year if you can slip past Ole Miss somehow, like find a way to win that game, especially for something like recruiting. You beat a swaggy guy like Kiffin, who's this sort of flashy, he's sort of known to be a little underhanded on the recruiting trail, and you beat that guy, you have that kind of hand up. Like, it's these type of games where Heupel could set himself apart and move quicker towards the goal for Tennessee. 100%. And that, I mean, that's an exciting prospect. Hope we'll see. We're going to totally preview in the second half of the post game here. We're going to preview that game in full. But I just think you have a real opportunity here. The way you set yourself up with the South Carolina game, like 6-6 is essentially there. And now you're just talking, you're playing with house money. Yeah. Go out there and get your gravy with Ole Miss and Kentucky in these games. They're not going to be easy, but they're going to be at least in the range of winnable if you can put together some really nice drives, maybe get a late lead, and then suddenly you beat Ole Miss, you beat Kentucky, and that's
anything can happen. I mean, everybody in football can agree with this. App State and Michigan, anything can happen.
Yeah.
You really think? I know that App State was number 1 in FCS at the time. Doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. When you step on the field, you just have to be the best team that day. That's exactly it. And today we were the best team out there, hands down. Well, I got out to a fast start, kind of slowed down, but guess what? And I think the comment earlier said it. Well, about 25 in the SEC. I don't care who you're playing. That's not easy. It's not easy. So what they did today was outstanding. They never quit. They showed energy till the end of the game, right? And what to me, one of the biggest positives is Hooker is still out there running the ball and putting his head down.
Yes. And I mean, his play in that second half wasn't great, but also the play calling was conservative. I take that with a grain of salt. Everything that happened in that second half, I take with a grain of salt because you were just up by so much. Yeah. You're looking at your roster and your lack of depth. There's a lot going on there. I'm not going to make sweeping statements about what happened in that second half.
No. I totally agree. Sorry, I'm watching the last play of the game for Arkansas to tie the game. Oh, no, sorry. Because I wanted to go to overtime. They got one more play left.
They do. Okay. We'll see what happens. But I do have one. I reminded myself with my notes here. One legitimate criticism that I do want to bring up. Mike Eckler needs to stop tweeting and make his unit better, because that's 2 weeks in a row now that special teams has gotten burned, and that's got to stop. And then they gave up a big kick return too near the very end of the game. Like, okay, I like your tweets; those are fun. Hot chili, ha 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 ha. How about you get better? How about the special teams better?
But
I don't like it.
Let's call it. I agree, totally agree. But that's today's college football.
That's the one thing that I will genuinely.
Today's college football.
Yeah.
Like with Beamer, every one pass completion, he's running up and down the sideline. That's today's college football. The thing that I like the most about Heupel is, man, he's just the whole time.
Yes.
You don't know if he's flatlining or if he's freaking off the charts. I like that personally. And he just, he doesn't seem to buy into that style. But like I said, in today's college football, you got to have somebody like that. That's why he's out here doing it. The biggest thing that bothered me on that play is I don't even know who it was that got burned. But what really ticked me off is you saw the pass go over his head and he just sat there. Dude, you turn and you run, you haul your butt down there and you try to make a play. Right? Look at BYU Arizona State a couple weeks ago. Arizona State's got a fumble or interception return. Dude comes out of nowhere, running back, jumps on his back and gets the ball out. Anything can happen. That's the stuff that really upsets me. By the way, Arkansas just scored. Just throw that out there.
Go to overtime, baby. Let's go.
Extra point away. Don't do it, kicker. Don't miss it.
Well, let's move to the second half of the show. And this is actually perfect. It's perfect that this is happening sort of in real time while we're talking about this, because in the second half of the show, we're going to preview the Arkansas game. But first, I got to say that this post-game reaction show is brought to you by the other content at A2ZSports.com. First and foremost, I host a podcast separate from this broadcast called the Big Orange Podcast. Comes out every Monday over on the A to Z Sports Podcast Network feed. I got to get a graphic I can put here up of it. I'm going to make that this week. Podcast A to Z Sports Podcast Network feed. Go there, rate, review, download, subscribe. You won't miss an episode. And it's myself and my compatriot here at A to Z Sports, Zach Reagan, and we get to go a little bit deeper than we go here on this sort of shorter pregame show. So go over there and subscribe. We had our most listened to episode ever this last week. So thank you to everybody who's listening. He did. Oh, I see. He did make the extra point. So,
he made.
Pittman is going for two. Pittman is going
I was
for
about
two.
to say. Ole Miss has had to call a timeout.
Pittman
was like, screw it, no overtime. I'm going to go to overtime for our sake.
Samantha Grimm said good, and I thought that she meant that they.
No.
Oh man. Well,
send the kicker. I need overtime.
Arkansas, stop screwing us over. Dang it.
But you know what? I love the gutsy call, but
oh man. You won't
better pay off. It's all, for your sake as the coach, it better pay off. It's all
as somebody who had to, as a big Titans fan, somebody who had to watch Mike Vrabel not go for two last week when he should have. I admire Pittman there.
Well, Brent says real quick on this. Brent asked why go for two in the situation. What it tells me personally is that you don't think you have the stamina going into overtime to stop their offense for your defense, because neither team. Oh, you better throw it. Ball game.
Did they win? Who won?
Ole Miss. Sorry. But
hey, I like the
thing is, you're sitting here saying that to yourself and everybody, you can't stop their offense. And right now, it looked like you couldn't. So I don't necessarily disagree.
I think that's absolutely the right call on Pittman's part.
I lied. Hey, by the way, there's a flag. Ooh. Oh, never mind. Declined. Okay. Sorry. Got off topic.
Well, I'll finish all that by saying go over to A2ZSports.com, and we got everything there. Additional Tennessee coverage, the written word over there. I write a little bit. Zach Reagan writes a little bit. We got Titans coverage, Predators coverage, blah, 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 blah. A2ZSports.com and the Big Orange Podcast on the A2Z Sports Podcast Network feed. Now, let's talk about this Ole Miss game. We're already talking about Ole Miss. They just beat Arkansas on a failed 2-point conversion. And so you were the last quarterback at Tennessee, the first and last quarterback at Tennessee to play for Lane Kiffin. So I feel like you're pretty qualified on this topic. to give some insight into next week and what might happen. How are you feeling just initially? Are you nervous to see your old coach come back into Neyland?
No, I'm more excited to see all these tweets that he's going to send out. I'll just be honest with you. There's going to be a lot of, gamesmanship, showmanship all week leading up to it, just like it was against Alabama for him. You know what I mean? It's going to be kind of the same thing. From him replying to fans, doing all that stuff. He's going to have fun with it. Bottom line, he really is. I don't blame him. He obviously openly has said he loved his time and enjoyed his time in Knoxville, but he's going to have fun with it this week. He really is, and rightfully so. So that actually could be to our advantage because his players all week are going to be reading things and seeing things because it's the first time he's as a head coach playing Tennessee and especially in Knoxville.
There's so much, storyline here, and we don't have to go into any of that. I don't think if you're watching this and you're that much of a Tennessee fan, you know what the deal is here with Kiffin. And with stuff like this, it's the same kind of trepidation that I had when Bruce came back, and Bruce is, on the basketball court. Bruce has just had our number, and it makes me ill. I hate it so much.
Yeah.
And this type of game makes me nervous because I want to stick it to the old coach. Because now I know you definitely admired Lane Kiffin. You thought a good thing was happening there with Kiffin. I'm sure you've said that and broken that down. But I think to normal Tennessee fan that wasn't behind those closed doors, people really look back at that and are pretty sick about it because that was the beginning of the end. That was the total downfall. He left. Hamilton makes a horrific hire with Derek Dooley, and it crashed and burned from there. And I think you kind of look back at Kiffin and go, this is the guy that did really set off the chain reaction. Now, we should have had a better AD who would have hired a better coach in his stead, but that's a whole other thing. And so I want to win this game to the deepest part of my core. Like, it's nice to beat South Carolina by 25, but how meaningful would it be to just and just cathartic to beat Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin specifically? I mean, it would just be the gratification of gratification for Tennessee.
Yes. The one thing I can say, though, is for the majority of these kids, how old were they when he left?
I know, yeah.
That's
not as meaningful for the players.
Think about it. It's been 12 years since he last coached in Knoxville. Most of these kids were single digits in age.
That is true.
You see what I'm saying? So I say that meaning it would be a lot different where you could have a lot more like metaphors and all these, little catchphrases to the players to hype them up a little more about, oh, this coach left. Well, they're all going, dude, I don't even remember when he did coach here. Unless they were from essentially Knoxville or a diehard Tennessee fan. That's the one thing I could say about that part. Now, for the fans, obviously it's going to be fun. You know what I'm saying? Like, they can have fun with it. But I'm just the players specifically, there's nothing you can say to try to hype them up anymore because none of them were – most of them were in Pee Wee football. You know what I mean? They weren't close. They're not close enough in age to really affect them.
That's definitely true. I mean, it has just lasted that long. Tennessee did that to themselves. I mean, it's been more than a decade now, 12, 13 years, whatever it's been, 12 years since then. And it just, you got 18-year-olds who would have been 6 back then.
and that's I guess that's my point is like, I'm with you. I want to win every game. Like, obviously this game means quote unquote more to the fans, but the only thing that I could say is, it's been 12 years. I understand that because here's the thing. We all are bitter in that sense because you're right. It was the start of the quote unquote decline. But I mean, bottom line is we still got to be able to put product on the field, and the coaches after that didn't. Southern Cal's in the same boat. Oregon was in the same boat until essentially now. You know what I mean? Florida State, they're still in the same boat. So we all go through it. You know what I mean? As far as universities, it's just a matter of, for Tennessee and our fan base, we really take a lot of pride in our football program and our sports in general. That's why it's a big deal. So only thing I can ask is, have fun with it, right? Poke the bear, so to speak. But let's not make it personal, because he's going to have fun and reply to people.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So let's not take it too far, because bottom line, it's been over a decade.
I would agree with that. I mean, you gotta at a certain point, you do kind of have to just let it go and look forward. But it would be, as I said, kind of cathartic to get that
100%
out of the way. You could exercise some demons. I feel like.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. I'm not gonna say you're wrong on that. To me, let's not take away from what our staff and our players are doing and make it about one other guy.
Yeah, agreed.
That would be the biggest thing to me.
Yeah. So I'll ask this for everybody that's watching. We got a good crowd joining us here. Thanks so much to everybody who's tuning in. Drop into the comments your score prediction for next week. I'm interested to see what people think about this Ole Miss game. It's an intimidating one. Ole Miss scores a ton of points, and they may be tired after this. As I said, this sort of track meet that they were in with Arkansas, and Tennessee really took it easy in that second half after they blasted South Carolina in that first half. So let's get some score predictions in the comments over here, and then we'll talk about it. But with this game, will this just be what we think it will be, or do you think that Tennessee might have something specifically with that defense? The defense has been a little bit better than we thought. Do you think that they can hold up against Corral and Kiffin and this onslaught? Do you think the defense has what it takes to hold them under 35 points, 40 points? I mean, what's realistic there?
That's a good question. When the whole time you were explaining all that, I was sitting here thinking, and I keep bringing up Arkansas, right? About, we could essentially, because of how we're transitioning, we could end up like Arkansas next year. Well, to me, what's the difference in Ole Miss? Because it's not like he inherited Alabama's players.
True.
I guess what I'm getting at is a good staff, right? And a good coach can outweigh the lesser of the talent. And we're starting to see that, right? A bad coach can ruin good talent. And we have seen that in the past.
Cool.
So what I'm getting at is, it's not like Ole Miss just straight up has better athletes than we do. It's the bottom line. The only thing that they have different than us is one recruiting class from Lane Kiffin, right?
That's true.
Because it's only his second season in Ole Miss. He did not, as a coach, you typically don't inherit good players when somebody got fired. They got fired for a reason. Keyword typically. So it's not like they're just astronomically better and more athletic than we are. It's not like they have a lot more depth than we do. They have a little bit because we're really thin at linebacker, but it's not like every position, right? So the thing that we have to do on defense is, I use it all the time, bend but don't break. Keep the ball in front. Exactly. Because as you watch this last game, if people go back and watch this Arkansas Ole Miss game or Alabama last year game, right? He understands how to exploit big plays. Probably better than almost anybody in college football as far as big plays. Okay. We can't get complacent randomly in the third quarter or in the second quarter. We have to stay and keep the ball in front, because their guys are not just going to outrun our guys. But he can manufacture big plays at the drop of a hat, and next thing you know, you're down 14. That's his advantage.
Yes, I completely agree with all of that. You would have the ability to just put surprise points on the board, suddenly have a lead. I mean, that's what you did in the first half against South Carolina. It's what you did in the first half against Missouri. You just shell shock these teams, suddenly have a 21-point lead, and these guys are just like, what the hell just happened? Yeah. And let's look at some of these score predictions I just asked. your score prediction for the Ole Miss game next week, given what we saw against South Carolina and Missouri. Ben Hall, Tennessee 38, Ole Miss 35. Sean Hicks, 38-34 Vols. Evan White, 52-49 Vols. 54-45 Vols for Kyle Adams. Brent Matlock, 52-51. So everybody thinks it's going to be a crazy shootout.
If we're betting, we're taking the over.
Yeah, clearly. 54-51, Kiffin loses, according to Edwin Sanders. Jordan Estrada, 51-48. Mike Canny's 72-68. Maybe. I mean, it seems on the board, at least, in terms of a possibility. Thanks to everybody for commenting there.
I think I'm going to be more of the pessimist on this one. I don't think it's going to be – I think it'll be, 30s. I don't think it's going to be in the 40s or 50s because each team is going to come up with new stuff, right? We obviously know they can't score if we have the ball. So I would not be surprised if we try to run our normal high-powered, high-paced offense, but methodically move it. 4 yards times 3 downs equals 12.
Yep.
Right? That's the way that you have to beat Ole Miss right now. Not because they're better than you, but it's because of big plays.
100%.
You know what I mean? So I think it's going to be somewhere in the, winning side will be in the 30s.
Does it weigh into you at all looking back? Heupel is actually 2-0 or 3-0.
He had better team than he did at FAU and UCF.
That was where I was leading.
He had a better team. He better be 2-0 against with the UCF team he had. He better be 2-0.
Agreed. I mean, one of those he laid the wood to Kiffin in one of those games, if I'm remembering correctly. It was like 40 something to like 7. But so he does have experience beating Lane Kiffin. That is something, whatever you want to take away from that. But a lot of folks, let's see, Will McElroy, 38-24, Tennessee, Calvin Brantley, UT 42, Ole Miss 24, Gilead, Tennessee, 57-54, Tennessee. So people are feeling Tennessee at home. I like it.
Yeah, and I'm reading this comment from Evan and said, I think Heupel already knows everything Kiffin will throw at him. No. And that's not, no, it's not Kiffin. That's just football. You're always going to have new wrinkles each week, especially at major college football and higher. You're always going to put a tweak in, right? So you have to go off of tendencies. If you're a good offensive and or defensive coach, you study your own tendencies and try to go away from that when you're scheming up big plays. All right. So that's why football is a chess match. You have to figure out when are they moving their pawns and when are they trying to move a rook to get their queen in position. All right. That's why it's fun. That's why it's the ultimate chess match. I mean, honestly. So we have to be careful not to fall for the pawns when they're just throwing random stuff at us. And same thing for them, because we're going to come up with stuff. That's football. We're going to come up with some wrinkles to take a shot down the field. Like today, fake quarterback run, throw a deep post over the top. We hadn't ran that all year, but we knew we could exploit it today. Will we run that next week? Highly doubt it. You know what I'm saying? So those things are where, and it is not Kiffin. That's just, if you're a good coach, you study your own stuff and try to go away from your tendency.
Great points all the way around. I'll say as we're sort of about to tie it all up here, we're moving in on 30 minutes worth of post-game reaction here. Let's get into a little bit of the fun of the fact that we have somebody here who played for Lane Kiffin. Okay. So how different do you think it is playing for a guy like Lane? And maybe he has matured some, but we still got him last week with the whole bring your popcorn, throw in the headset and all that stuff, looking like a clown.
And that's the stuff we have to be prepared for. He's going to do that. That is him.
How different do you think it is for these kids now? Do you like this style with Heupel, where you said very even keeled, and he's not that showy guy? Or do you like the Kiffin style, having played for
they both have their pros and cons, right? Heupel, because you can tell Heupel behind closed doors. Look at the video about dark mode when he brought it out, right? He does that stuff behind closed doors. He doesn't do it on game day, right? So I think they both have their pros. I really do. It's just a matter of, honestly, which way do the kids nowadays in recruiting, which way do you like better? It's just and I love this comment from Ben. Heupel's team is just as flashy without the attention. 100%. I agree with that, because if you look at the offenses, they're very similar. They really are. We're high powered. We draw it back. We go. We are running, if I'm not mistaken, number 1 in the country in plays per game. And if it's not number 1, it's at least top 3. But if I'm not mistaken, it's number 1. Dude, the past 3 years, we haven't ran more than like 70. We're averaging like 80 something. All right. So we can do a lot of good things. It's just not going to be the rah, and there's nothing wrong with that, because it gets Ole Miss players hyped. Right. So there's both ways work in their own way, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Well, let's wrap up that conversation. Then I have one more question for you, but let's wrap up this conversation with just saying, if you want to hear a full score prediction, tune into the Big Orange podcast with myself and Zach Reagan. We're going to break it down all the way to a full score prediction for all your betting needs. Their A to Z Sports Podcast Network feed for that. But then let's just say, does Tennessee win for you next week, Ron?
Oh, wow, just on the spot. You know what?
Yes or no?
I got to say yes. Just obviously, I hope they do, but I think we can. I truly do. And I'm going to read this comment real quick because this kind of touches on this. Tim Spoon put on there, hard to know how good Ole Miss defense is because the only good teams they played scored bunches.
Yeah,
they look average against bad teams, right?
Yeah.
So bottom line is, it's not, like I said, it's not like they're just a better team than us. When they played a team that has a decent offense, and Arkansas, they were very, very subpar last year. They just put up 51 points. You know what I mean? So we can do those things because we have just as good as players as those teams. We don't have Alabama yet, but the Arkansas, right? We have better than South Carolina players. But the middle of the road right now, we're there. Ole Miss, hey, let's call a spade here. It ain't like they're the top of the SEC West right now.
It's true.
Right? It's just hyped up because of Lane knows what he's doing in the sense of getting the attention. Because when he came December 1st of 2008, he told us in the first meeting, any publicity is good publicity right now because we don't have publicity. We have lacked publicity at the University of Tennessee for years now, and I will get us back on the map in publicity, no matter what I've got to do. He's doing the same thing at Ole Miss. People don't just think of college football and the SEC go, ooh, Ole Miss, yeah. Right?
I mean, wins do the talking for you, but brand recognition, which undoubtedly Lane Kiffin with just his style brings, brand recognition gets you something like a preseason top 25 ranking. Yeah. And then you can keep that ranking, sell that to recruits, do things like that, and there's value there in that.
Just kind of to touch on what we talked about earlier, a little quick story about good coaches doing game planning. South Carolina week, right? Today. So in 2009, the first day of practice, he comes in, he's like, hey, Crump, listen, second play of the game, they're on a cover zero. And I was like, okay, well, dude, it's the first day of practice this week. I don't know how you know that. You know what I mean? Like, cool. We're running this play. I'm like, okay. Second play of the game, no matter where we're at. Okay. Just thinking he's talking. So the second play of practice that day, we ran that play. Next day of practice. Hey, they're running cover zero, second play. Watch. And so every day he kept saying it, and we kept doing the exact play that we would run the second play of the game in practice. Saturday morning walkthrough at the hotel, and I'm like, dude, coach, stop. How in the hell do you know this? Right? Stop. And he goes, just trust me. We get a turnover, second play of the game. Guess what they ran? Cover zero. Guess what we did? Austin Johnson, fullback, right up the middle, wide open for a touchdown. Go to the sideline. He goes, don't question me. I got this. Like, he's being funny, right? But it's the fact of, like I said, good coaches play off of each other's tendencies. How he knew that, I'll never know, right? But good coach play off of tendencies. So we, on our end, have to go and study our own tendencies week in, week out, right? And that's what good coaches do. And I think we have a good enough staff to do that, or at least Heupel. I don't know the rest of them, and I think he's been successful wherever he's been. So I'm assuming that he does that, right? And that's what it's going to take this week too.
So I was going to ask you, just to wrap everything up and end this show, have the final thing be, what is your favorite Lane Kiffin story that's kosher enough for this setting?
Yeah, honestly, that's
a great one. That's a great one.
Because the best part was I called my dad, right? And I'm like, Dad, listen to this. I can't tell you the play. I can't tell you the play. But he goes, okay. And I call him and say, I'm like, dude, this guy's smoking something. Like, what? No. It's like, I can understand if you tell me on like Friday before the game, hey, I've studied all this, right? And that just goes to show what a good coach does when it comes to film study. You can just sit in the film room and just rewind all day. Are you actually studying? I'm assuming that he does because of what that play specifically. And I remember getting up to the line of scrimmage going, son of a, you know what? We're going cover zero. Like straight up. This is really happening. I'm walking the line and it's like slow-mo. And
love it.
And I'm walking the line of scrimmage and I'm going, this is going to work. Like, not that you don't think it's going to work, but I'm sitting there going, like, he's 100% right. Because what if they come out and they play cover 4, cover 3? Play's not going to work. He's going to be matching one linebacker. There was nobody there. And as soon as I threw it, I just started running. I was like, you got to be kidding me. This is amazing. And that moment, I was like, you know what? That's what it's about, because every day it was always about competing. And when he still does it. And you see, he actually, like I said, he's going to take shots. He plays Rocky Top at Ole Miss during practice sometimes. They're going to hear it this week. And he plays music during warmups. And it used to be at the end of practice, O&D, 20 plays unscripted. Condra Holloway was the judge on run plays if it was positive or negative. Winner got to choose music the next day. Like, just stuff like that made you want to compete harder. It's just music, but you got to rag on the defense that it was our music that day. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
random things. And that's what he does. But, and then look at Heupel. He's out here playing softball with the guys, playing dodgeball with them, playing kickball. Those things go a long way with these players. Just because Heupel doesn't do it necessarily in front of the camera, you can see that these players love playing for him. Like, they genuinely do. Yeah, and that's encouraging. So to me, whether we win or lose, I can guarantee you they will not quit, no matter the score. And that right now is such a positive, because we have a legitimate chance to win 6 and 7 ball games year one with an undermanned team. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Well, this was amazing stuff. I'm glad you went exactly where I wanted you to go without me even having to lead you there. So amazing stuff. That's Jonathan Crompton. I'm Charlie Burris. Thanks to everybody who is watching this every week. You guys are literally the reason that we do it. This has been tons of fun so far. Hopefully Tennessee keeps winning, because that's what probably makes it the most fun. It's not great to just talk about losses. But before we split, any final thoughts before we go, Crom?
I think I said really all I wanted to say is, I'm looking forward to next week. It's going to be fun.
It definitely is.
Regardless of what happens via Twitter and all that. I'm intrigued and excited to see what gets put on the rock on campus.
Yeah.
I really am. I really, truly am, because it's going to be something creative.
We'll have to keep an eye out.
That's what college football is about, and that's what's fun about it. So I'm very excited. Don't buy in, fans. Don't buy into everything Lane's going to say this week. I'm telling you, don't do it. He's going to do it on purpose.
There's, that GIF. What is it? The GIF of the guy. I don't know what it's from, but the guy, he's like pointing up and he's like, "That's bait. That's bait." That GIF That's going to be this whole week
all week
with Lane Kiffin. That's bait. Don't take it. Don't take the bait.
100%. He's
Right.
doing it on purpose.
That is going to be it. This has been the A to Z Sports Big Orange post-game reaction show. Charlie Burris, Jonathan Crompton, at Charlie_Burris, at JCromp8 over on Twitter, and at A to Z Sports on Twitter, Instagram, and all the different places. Facebook.com/A to Z Sports, and A to Z Sports.com. Also, go see everything that we got going on. And otherwise, we will see all of y'all next week.
Thanks, guys.